if Brandon is right on this one. So here's his note. So he says that the phone was dropped in water, but it worked for 3 weeks after. And then he says this, I'd never heard this before. On a side note, when it stopped working, I was burning a stump. That's what it says right here. Sunday, did you know that?
Yes, I did.
You did? Okay, so we got Brandon's phone. He was burning a stump. So it might have gotten hot in my pocket. I mean, I don't know what kind of heat comes off a burning stump, but you know, wouldn't it like burn your leg and you jump back? Like, I don't know. That sounds weird. Might be. And then this is crazy. He says, you know, it might be like that phone in the iPhone 13 no schematics video. So we already did a video on just some iPhone 13, which they're hard to work on because they don't have schematics. So you have to do a lot of guessing and relating to other phones in order to fix board level. So he's hoping that it has a short near the NAND. So Brandon's theory is that he got his phone wet, it worked for 3 weeks, he burned a stump in his yard, and that caused a short near the NAND. That's the theory, all right? So we're gonna find out. Is the customer always right? We're gonna jump right in here and open up Brandon's phone, which is extremely easy to open because it's been opened before. Okay. This screen's not even attached, all right? And does it look, yeah, it looks like there was a little bit of wetness there, all right? Hopefully this screen works. If not, then Brandon, we're gonna have to take apart your brand new iPhone 13, and I'm not even sure you want us to do that because you're not gonna be able to return it if we take the screen off of it. They're definitely going to wise up if we put this screen back on that and you go back to the Apple Store. But hopefully it won't come to that. We'll see. Because if Brandon is right, the customer is always right, then there's going to be just a little bit of board damage from standing next to a stump that was on fire. And we're just going to clear that right up with the X-Acto knife. All right, so let's see. Next step, we're going to go to the DC power supply and ask, does Brandon's iPhone 13 turn on? And we've got it all connected up. And we see VCC main is okay, the main power rail is fine. Now we're going to prompt to boot. And I'm going to prompt to boot just by pressing Brandon's power button and see what does it do. Now, as soon as I prompt to boot, we see the current jump up, not to 3 amps, but to 1.9 amps and hang out. So that is a short circuit, and that tells me, Brandon, you were right, so far at least. You stood next to a stump on fire. Burning stump makes shorts. Now, I don't know if it's a NAND area short like you predicted. Hopefully you're right, because that'd be really easy to fix. So far, so good, though. All right, so now we know we have a short. So let's go ahead and see if we can guess what line is short. Let's just probe around the NAND area and see if we can find a short. All right, let's get under the microscope. So Brandon, at least, Brandon, you're getting something out of watching the channel, because he said, you know, Jessa, I've already seen you fix an iPhone 13 with no schematics where the same current pattern that we just saw was due to a short circuit that was NAND power. So here's the NAND chip on Brandon's phone. And when we look around, do we see any water around here? A little piece of glitter or something, but no, this is really not wet around here as far as we can tell. Looks absolutely perfectly fine. Nevertheless, let's go ahead and diode mode around. So I'm just going to diode mode around red probe on ground and just see if I think that any of these come up short. And I'm just going to test the larger ones that are at the corners. That tends to be a failure point. Ah, look at that. First one back here, normal. So this, not the cap, but the line that this cap is on, does not have a short. But down here, NAND power, that line is short. Now, we don't necessarily know it's because of this particular cap. In fact, that's one of the things I was telling. We had 3 students here from the Bahamas, and I kept telling them a new rule. Don't fall in love with the cap that you find that shows you the shorted line. So don't fall in love with that cap just because it beeps on your multimeter. No, it doesn't mean that that cap is the cause of the short. It could be, but it could also be anything else along the line. All right, so let's look and see what line is this and where does it go? And then we're going to get the thermal camera out to see if indeed it's this capacitor getting hot, or is it something else that's on that same line? Because if the line is short anywhere, the line is short everywhere. This line, ding, this line is short. So where does it go? This looks a lot like our PP3VO NAND power line that drives power for the NAND chip in every phone, all the way back down to those early phones, all the way, I know iPhone 6, and I think even iPhone 5 series, I'm not sure. But they all get a short here, and it always shows up on DC power just like Brandon. Even Brandon could recognize, hey, I bet my phone's got a 3VO NAND short, and it looks like he was right. The customer is sometimes right. This bag of phone, Brandon said, hey, I think it's going to be an easy fix. And he was right. Can you believe that? All right, so still, where is the cause of the short? It could be the cap that we're not supposed to fall in love with, or it could be any of the neighbors, it could be these guys, or it could be the NAND itself, in which case it's not going to be an easy fix. And then there's a couple of caps up at the top. So let's go ahead and fire up the thermal camera to see which one of these spaces is the thinnest wire and is therefore going to get hot. Usually, the thing that becomes a short to ground makes itself into a thin wire so we can see it on heat, but not always, so don't get trolled. All right, so let's go. This isn't plugged in yet, but our NAND area is up here by my super hot finger, and we're going to slide down here, plugging in our DC power, which we've learned that on the 13, we have to plug it in from the opposite side that you would expect. So from the frame, here's the battery. Okay, now we're going to kind of pull it down so that the NAND area-ish is in focus. Here's the spot that we measured, so right here. Let's see, I can't stick my finger here, right on that side, right there. That's the capacitor that we're not supposed to fall in love with just because it's the first one that we measured on the shorted line. Because if we measure all of them, they're all going to measure short because the line is short. And if the line is short anywhere, the line is short everywhere. Okay, let's prompt it to boot and look for heat. Prompt. Whoa, look at that. That's our spot. That's the same dude, the guy we're not supposed to fall in love with. Man. Look at that, Brandon. I think you are right. The customer is right. Always right. I don't know, but Brandon, I think you're right. Somehow, standing next to a stump on fire did indeed cause a NAND short. I have no idea how that is possible, but that definitely seems to be what's going on. Yeah, so now we can say that your hotspot, the thinnest wire on this board, is exactly that cap that we first measured. So therefore, we are going to delete it. And we're going to use the iPad Rehab Short Killer. The iPad Rehab Short Killer, which has fixed more boards than any other tool in this shop. Ta-da! The iPad Rehab Short Killer. We are going to go ahead and kill this short. I'm going to just take away some of this coating just to kind of look and say, does that guy look at all wet? No, it doesn't. It looks great. How the heck can that possibly be the short? And yet, that's getting hot. Beep, beep. It is measuring low resistance to ground on that 3VO NAND side. All right, safest way, believe it or not, to eject this guy from this area with this underfilled NAND is to use the iPad Rehab Short Killer and simply knock it off. Let's put that blade in there a little bit better. There we go. Boop. There he goes. It does look a little burned on the other side. So this is, did it get hot in Brandon's pocket from just simply standing next to a stump on fire? I don't know. Probably not. PSA. Stump fires can kill your iPhone 13. Look at that. Short is now gone. All right, I've connected everything. I have plugged in his front flex, his screen. Everything is connected. So this is going to tell us whether or not his phone can boot up. So we'll watch the DC power, and it will tell us whether or not his expensive screen is still working. That's really going to be the deal breaker here. All right, let's see. All right, I really want to see this boot up. Prompt to boot. Pressing the power button. Oh, there we go. Yay! There's an Apple logo. That is awesome. Let me make it clear. There we go. Look at that. His screen is alive. That's such a huge win. All right. Now I can see on my DC power, it looks pretty normal. So hey, look at that. It booted up. There we go. Now we can see that normal DC power booted up, has touch. This is awesome. So there's really not going to be anything else wrong with this phone. This is just crazy. I can't believe it. I can't believe that a bag of phone where it's already been to another shop, sent to me with a bunch of screws in a bag with the screen off. He said, like, do I get a discount if I've already taken off the screen? No, because you made the job harder. He's bought this entire donor phone saying, well, I really hope you don't have to use it because I want to return this. And he totally called what was wrong with it just from watching YouTube. Look at this. I'm going to show his note here. He called this, right? He said the phone was dropped in water. It worked for 3 weeks after. And then he says, on a side note, check this out. This is the first time this has ever happened, I think. When it stopped working, I was burning a stump. Crazy. So it might have gotten hot in my pocket. And then he says it right here. It might be like that phone in the iPhone 13 no schematics video. Look at that. And a short near the NAND. Way to go, Brandon. Good for you, man. You are absolutely right. This is indeed a straightforward repair. You're going to get to take this back to Apple and say, you know what? I'm not buying your new phone, Apple. I'm fixing my phone. This phone is good to go. If you leave that single capacitor off on that 3VO NAND line, that's not going to create any problem in my experience. Putting it back on does create a problem in my experience with the heat, the underfill in that area. So the safest thing to do is to just put this phone back together, get it a new waterproof seal, and it's good to go. So congratulations, Brandon. This one is one for the record books, I think. All right, we'll see you next time.